Have you ever faced an authoritative boss and felt powerless against unfair treatment? This story will take you on a gripping journey where a humble employee confronts unexpected challenges in a harsh corporate environment. Will she rise above and change her destiny, or crumble under the weight of power and injustice? Follow along to discover this inspiring tale that will leave you wondering, what would you do in her shoes? I never imagined I'd work at TechPro Corp, one of the largest tech companies in Seattle. Growing up in a small Wyoming town with a single mother working 2 jobs, the corporate world seemed like an unattainable dream. Yet here I was, Laura Peterson, 26 years old, sitting at my desk on the 50th floor of West Tower. Sure, it was just a tiny cubicle, but it was mine. Peterson, where's the Johnson report? Jessica Thompson's sharp voice jolted me. She stood at the entrance of my cubicle, her designer heels clicking impatiently on the polished floor. Her perfectly styled blonde hair was tied into a sleek bun, her demeanor exuding severity. I sent it 10 minutes ago, Miss Thompson, I replied, pulling up my sent emails. It should be in your inbox. Her meticulously groomed eyebrows knitted together. I don't see it. Resend it and fix the margins this time. They're a mess. The margins were exactly as per the 3 memos she had circulated on document formatting, but I knew better than to argue. Yes, Miss Thompson, I said as she strutted off. By late afternoon, the sky was painted in deep shades of purple as dusk settled over the towering skyline. Stepping out of the office, my shoulders felt heavy as if I were carrying the weight of the world. Pulling my thin jacket tighter against the cold breeze, I joined the throng of people at the crowded bus stop, each hurrying home. Unlike them, my home wasn't a warm sanctuary but a cramped refuge in a rundown apartment complex on the city's outskirts. Peeling paint, flickering yellow lights in the hallways, and cracked walls. This wasn't ideal, but it was all I had. As I entered, the air was thick with the smell of medicine and thin porridge. On the small bed by the window, my mother, Evelyn, sat propped against pillows, her face pale and hollow from illness. Despite her visible exhaustion, she managed a weak smile as I walked in. I dropped my bag on the chair and rushed to her side. Have you eaten anything, Mom? I asked gently, touching her forehead to check for fever. I had some porridge, but my appetite isn't great, she replied, her voice raspy, interrupted by bouts of coughing. I sat beside her, adjusting the thin blanket over her frail frame. Pouring a glass of warm water, I helped her sit up and held it to her lips. She took small sips, her eyes filled with love and gratitude. How was work today? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated. I didn't want her to worry. But the stack of hospital bills on the table, numbers that seemed impossible to overcome, reminded me I couldn't shield her from everything. Forcing a smile, I said, It was fine, Mom. Nothing I can't handle. She smiled back, though her eyes betrayed a deep understanding. She knew the weight I carried, the sacrifices I made. Taking a damp cloth, I wiped her forehead and massaged her thin, bony hands. These were the hands that had nurtured me, protected me from every storm as a child. Now it was my turn. Though I couldn't provide the care she truly needed. That night, I sat by her bedside, gazing at the doctor's prescription and the ever-mounting bills. My mind raced as I calculated expenses, cutting out everything unnecessary, no new clothes, no meals out, no indulgences. Still, it wasn't enough. Every night, I wondered how to make ends meet, how to give her the treatment she deserved. The next morning at work, as I focused on completing an urgent report, Jessica stormed into the office. Her heels echoed ominously as she approached my desk. Peterson, are you sure this report is accurate? She demanded, her tone laced with suspicion. I just reviewed it, and the figures don't add up. I'm taking this straight to upper management. Panic tightened my chest. I had spent hours meticulously checking every number. Miss Thompson, I double-checked everything. If there's an issue, I'll correct it immediately. Jessica's eyes narrowed as she leaned closer. Don't try to cover up your mistakes. This isn't the first time you've caused a mess. I've warned you about maintaining standards, but clearly, you're incapable of learning. Her words cut deep. I wanted to defend myself, but her position of authority silenced me. Sorry, Ms. Thompson. I'll fix it right away, I said, swallowing my pride. Jessica smirked, her voice dripping with disdain. But maybe one day, you'll understand why we hire people with real qualifications, those who don't let their personal struggles affect their performance. Her parting words stung like a slap, but I bit my tongue. I couldn't afford to lose this job, not with my mother's life depending on it. Later that night, as I sat at my tiny desk, I stared at my notebook, the pages filled with dreams and goals. I wanted my mother to receive the best care possible. I wanted to stop dreading the sight of another hospital bill. I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, not to prove my worth to Jessica or anyone else, but to secure a future where no one could belittle me because of my humble beginnings. The journey ahead seemed daunting, but I knew I couldn't let the challenges extinguish the fire within me. No matter how hard life pushed me, I would push back harder. This was only the beginning. Lara's face paled at Jessica's sharp words. She didn't dare fight back, knowing that arguing with Jessica would only put her in an even more difficult position. Her mother was battling a serious illness, and losing this job wasn't an option. But the injustice clawed at her, rising with every breath. "Do you not understand me?" Lara said quietly, pressing her lips together, struggling to control her emotions. "I've done everything I can to get the job done. You know I'm not the one at fault here. You should know your place." Jessica smirked. "You can sit here forever in your cheap clothes and your menial job. But don't start dreaming about climbing any higher, Lara. People like you stay right here, working like a servant." Every word cut into Lara like a blade. She lowered her head, squeezing her eyes shut to keep the tears from falling. But she couldn't give up. She wouldn't let Jessica win. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to stay composed. She would endure whatever it took to keep this job. "Believe whatever you want, Miss Wilson," Lara said, her voice quiet but unwavering. "But I'll do my job the right way, and I'm not giving up." With every ounce of strength in her body, Lara kept working on the report. Once again, she didn't dare fight back, but inside her, the resolve burned stronger than ever. She wouldn't let this injustice break her. She would prove that she belonged here, no matter how impossible it seemed. I could hear the whispers from nearby cubicles. Everyone knew Jessica despised me, but no one knew why. Maybe it was because I wore discount clothes while they dressed in designer brands. Maybe it was my degree from a public university in a sea of Ivy League graduates. Or maybe some people just needed someone to look down on to feel better about themselves. "Don't let her get to you," Sophie whispered from the next cubicle. She was one of the few friends I had here, another outsider in this corporate jungle. "She's just pissed because Henry praised your presentation this morning." I tried to smile, but my hands still trembled as I sent the report back. One mistake, one wrong step, and Jessica would have an excuse to fire me. I couldn't afford to lose this job, not with my mother's medical bills piling up at home. The next few hours passed in a haze of spreadsheets and passive-aggressive emails from Jessica. By 6 p.m., the office was nearly empty, but I stayed at my desk, double-checking the presentation for tomorrow's client meeting. "Still here, Peterson? No Friday night plans?" Jessica's mocking voice startled me. She stood by my desk, designer handbag in hand, clearly on her way out. "I'm finishing the Wilson presentation," I replied, keeping my voice steady. She inspected her manicured nails with feigned disinterest. "Don't forget about the company party tomorrow. You have to attend. Try to dress appropriately this time." My cheeks burned as I remembered last month's team lunch, when she had openly mocked my budget-friendly wardrobe in front of everyone. Once she left, I slumped into my chair, blinking back tears. The company party was just another opportunity for Jessica to remind everyone that I didn't belong in her world. "Rough day?" A gentle voice startled me. I looked up to see a young woman standing by my cubicle. She looked about my age, with warm brown eyes and an easy smile. She was dressed simply, jeans, a sweater, and comfortable flats, standing out against the sea of power suits at TechPro Corporation. "Megan," she said, leaning casually against my desk. "Lara Peterson," I replied quickly, wiping my eyes. "Welcome to TechPro Corporation." "Thanks." She glanced at my screen. Wilson presentation? I nodded, exhaustion weighing on me. The boss wants it perfect for Monday's meeting. Oh, Jessica Wilson. Megan's eyes twinkled. I've heard about her. She has quite a reputation. That's one way to put it, I muttered, trying to keep my composure. Strangely, despite the tension still pressing down on me, I felt lighter. There was something about Megan that made it easy to talk. Hey, want to grab a coffee? She offered. I know a great little spot around the corner. Looks like you could use a break. I hesitated, glancing at my screen. The presentation will still be here in an hour, Megan said gently. Come on, my treat. Something in her voice made me nod. Grabbing my coat, I followed her to a cozy cafe I had passed 100 times but never stepped into. Sitting across from her with a steaming latte, I found myself talking more than I had in months. I told her everything about my tough childhood, my mother's illness, this job, and Jessica's relentless harassment. Why not report her? Megan asked, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. I let out a bitter laugh. Report her to who? She's untouchable. Her father golfs with half the board members. And besides, I need this job. Megan's eyes narrowed slightly, as if deep in thought. No one is untouchable, or trust me. Something in her voice made me study her more closely, but before I could say anything, she shifted the conversation, asking about my work in marketing. By the time we left the cafe, I felt lighter. Megan had a way of making everything seem less overwhelming, just by listening. See you at the party tomorrow? She asked as we parted ways. I grimaced. Unfortunately. Now I just have to find something appropriate to wear. Her smile turned enigmatic. Don't worry about that. Just be yourself. Sometimes things work themselves out. I should have noticed then that Megan wasn't just another new hire. I should have seen the way the security guard straightened when she walked past, the way she moved through the building like she already knew it inside out. But I didn't. I was too busy just trying to survive another day in Jessica's world. The next evening, I stood in front of my mirror, trying to make my one decent dress look more expensive than it was. The company party was being held at the Skyline, one of the most exclusive rooftop restaurants in Dallas. Another chance for Jessica to remind me that I didn't belong. My phone buzzed with a message from Megan. Don't worry. Tonight will be interesting. I had no idea how right she was. I had no idea that, within a few hours, everything would change. The moment I stepped into Vista, I felt breathless. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the dazzling Dallas skyline, crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and champagne flowed freely among the elegantly dressed crowd. I felt completely out of place in my simple black dress from last year's clearance sale. Well, Jessica's voice dripped with disdain. You actually showed up, Peterson. And wearing the same dress from last year's holiday party. How thrifty of you. She stood with a group of senior managers, all smirking at her remark. Her dress alone probably cost 3 months of my salary. Appreciate you noticing, Miss Wilson, I replied, gripping my glass tightly. I couldn't lose my temper. Not here. Not now. You know, Jessica continued, her voice ringing out, clearly enjoying the crowd's attention. Some people just don't understand company culture. They think they can walk in from their little small-town lives and just blend into a company like TechPro Corporation. She looked me up and down, her gaze dripping with condescension. But class and sophistication? Those aren't things you can buy, are they? Laughter rippled through her group. My face burned with humiliation. I need to check on Wilson's presentation, I mumbled, turning away. Oh, that's right, run back to your little cubicle, Jessica called after me, where people like you belong, not among real professionals. I was nearly at the elevator when a familiar voice stopped me. Leaving so soon? Megan stood there, but she didn't look like she had the day before. Tonight, she wore a stunning red designer dress that made my simple black dress look like a dishcloth. And yet, somehow, her warm smile was exactly the same. I don't belong here, I whispered, fighting back tears. Megan's eyes gleamed with mischief. You belong here more than most. Before I could protest, she linked her arm through mine and led me back into the party. Jessica was still near the window, regaling the crowd with what I could only assume were jokes at my expense. "Miss Thompson," Megan called out loudly. The room fell silent. Jessica turned, her polished smile faltering the instant she saw Megan. "I'm sorry, are you?" "Megan West." Jessica stammered. My friend remained perfectly composed. "You might know me better as the daughter of James West, CEO of TechPro Corporation." The champagne flute in Jessica's hand slipped from her fingers, shattering against the floor. No one moved to clean it up. Everyone was too stunned, staring at Megan. I was staring too, unable to believe what I was hearing. Megan West, the daughter of James West, CEO of Sterling Corp., notorious for working undercover in various departments to understand the company from the ground up. Jessica's smirk was gone. Her face had gone pale in a matter of seconds. "I didn't realize you were." "Clearly," Megan said coolly. "I've spent the past month observing different departments, Miss Thompson, to understand our employees, their strengths, their challenges." Her gaze sharpened. "And the people who make their lives harder." The room was so quiet I could hear people breathing. "I've seen how you treat those you deem beneath you," Megan went on. "Particularly Laura Peterson, one of our most promising young marketing analysts. Did you know her campaign proposals increased our social media engagement by 47% this quarter? Or were you too busy criticizing her wardrobe to notice her work?" Jessica's mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. "I was just maintaining professional standards," she stammered. Megan laughed, a sharp, cutting sound. "Speaking of professional standards, Miss Thompson, shall we discuss the misuse of company resources to plan your personal vacations? Or how you've taken credit for your subordinates' work? Or the fact that your father's golf buddies on the board can no longer protect you since they all retired last month?" Jessica's face drained of color completely. "Your position at TechPro Corp is no longer yours," Megan stated, her voice firm. "Security will escort you out to clear your desk. Your replacement starts Monday." She paused, then added with satisfaction, "I believe you already know her, Laura Peterson." My head was spinning. What was happening? "You can't do this," Jessica sputtered. "I'm firing you, and I have all the evidence I need," Megan replied flatly. "You should be ashamed." Like magic, security appeared. Jessica glanced around frantically, but no one stepped in to help her. No one wanted to. Megan turned to face the room, her expression commanding. TechPro Corp thrives on innovation, integrity, and respect. If you can't uphold those values, take Miss Thompson's example and leave now." The room emptied fast, leaving only Megan and me. "You planned all of this?" I finally managed. Megan smiled. "I've been working undercover in various departments for 6 months, evaluating our company culture. Jessica Thompson wasn't the only toxic manager, but she was certainly the worst." She squeezed my hand. "Your promotion is real. Your work caught my attention long before I ever met you." "But why?" I asked, gesturing at everything around us. "Because talent and hard work matter more than designer labels," Megan said firmly. "Because I grew up watching people like Jessica Thompson make life miserable for people like you. Because TechPro Corp needs leaders who lift others up, not tear them down." Tears welled in my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me yet," Megan laughed. "Wait until you see your new office and salary." She linked her arm through mine again. "Come on, the little cafe is still open. And I think this calls for a celebration." As we left the skyline, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. Jessica had been right about one thing. I didn't belong in her world, a world of petty bullying and social climbing. I belonged somewhere better. 3 months later, my team's latest marketing campaign won an industry award. I accepted it in my dress from Target, standing beside Megan in her elegant designer gown. We smiled for the cameras, ignoring the whispers about my unsuitable outfit, because we knew what they didn't. Success isn't about where you shop or who your parents know. It's about what you bring to the table. As for Jessica, last I heard she was working for a small firm in Tacoma. Seems like her father's golf connections weren't as useful as she thought. Megan and I still meet at that little cafe every week, mapping out the future of Sterling Corporation. She's still the same person who sat at my table that Friday night. Genuine, kind, and utterly unimpressed by brand names. As for me, I still shop at Target. But now, I do it from my corner office on the 50th floor. 6 months later. Lara, the latest report shows our campaign has exceeded the revenue target by 35%. Her assistant's voice rang with excitement. Lara allowed herself a small smile. Just 6 months ago, she had been just another junior employee, stifled under the weight of a tyrannical supervisor, forced to endure condescending remarks about her humble background. But now, she stood on different ground, no longer bowing to anyone, no longer the subject of whispers or pitying glances. Stepping out of her office, she was met with the respectful greetings of her team. "Morning, boss." A young colleague beamed as she walked past. Lara nodded in acknowledgement, a quiet sense of fulfillment settling over her. Being recognized for her work, not her background, was worth more than anything. Work no longer felt like a battlefield. She no longer had to tread carefully, fearing blame for mistakes she didn't make or enduring cruel words masked as professional standards. Each day, she came to the office with a purpose, focused on creating and innovating, the very reasons she had chosen marketing in the first place. That evening, Lara left work with a lightness in her step. She made her way to the parking lot, where her old but reliable sedan waited for her. No more crammed bus rides, no more long winter walks through the biting cold. She drove home, pulling up in front of her new apartment, a modest but cozy space, a far cry from the damp walls and flickering lights of her past rentals. This was hers, a place she and her mother could finally call home without the constant worry of rent deadlines looming over them. Stepping inside, she found her mother seated on the couch, engrossed in a book. Evelyn looked healthier, her complexion no longer pale, her eyes brighter. The new treatment was working. More importantly, Lara no longer lay awake at night, gripped by the terror of unpaid medical bills, no longer watched helplessly as her mother suffered in pain. "You're home." Evelyn looked up, her smile warm and familiar. Lara walked over and gently wrapped an arm around her mother's shoulders, savoring the comforting presence. "How are you feeling today?" "So much better," Evelyn reassured her. "The doctor said I'm making great progress." Lara exhaled, relief washing over her. Every day, her mother grew stronger. That was what mattered most. After dinner, once her mother had gone to bed, Lara sat at her small desk, flipping open a notebook filled with her future goals. She wasn't done, not even close. There was more to achieve, not just for herself, but for those like her, those who had been underestimated because of where they came from. She had come a long way. And this was only the beginning. Sometimes, life has a way of making bullies face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to stand up and say, "Enough." And sometimes, just sometimes, the colleague you thought was just a friendly acquaintance turns out to be the ally you needed all along. This story is a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and the courage to stand up for what's right. What do you think about standing up for justice in a challenging environment? Have you ever had the opportunity to change someone's fate, or your own? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else. If this story resonated with you, don't hesitate to share it with your friends and loved ones. Let's spread the message of respect, empowerment, and positive change together. Thank you for reading and supporting this journey. Let's create a better world, one step at a time. Wishing you happiness and success. Thank you for supporting the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to receive the latest updates. The stories are collected from various sources and do not represent any individual or organization. They are shared with the intention of spreading human values in life and have been rewritten with the support of AI. If there are any mistakes, kindly overlook them with understanding.